Hello and welcome to our next tech demo. All right, today we are going to do some exploration of the Unity Editor's interface. So, as always, to start any of our Unity projects, what we need to do is we need to open up our Unity Hub and look for our project's title. So in this case, I'm coming in and I'm going to open up our Universal 2D Tech demo that we created earlier. So I would come in here, I would select it, and it would launch Unity for me. But because that takes a long time for it to record, we're just going to jump over because I've got it open already. So jumping into that right now, we would have this set up. And so this is our kind of default Universal 2D Tech demo interface. And what we're going to do today is kind of explore some of the areas for those of you that are brand new to working inside this. So one of the first places that you want to look at is the scene view. So this right here is the scene view. But this is going to be kind of where you kind of construct everything inside of your view. You can position your game elements. And then if you switch over to the game view, which is shown by this little controller right here, this is going to be what it actually looks like inside the game. So right now I've just got a 2D game with a blue background. Not very exciting right now, but that's going to be the toggle that you do between those two right there. Uh, so most of the time you're going to be doing your construction in scene view with your grids and cameras. You'll be able to see all your individual game objects and so forth in that view. All right, so next vid, let me wipe that drawing off of there. And if you take a look over on the left-hand side of mine is the hierarchy panel shown right there. All right. So in this is going to show everything that's inside your scene, including the main camera, the default objects, and so forth. So as you start to add and create and import more objects, you're going to see them listed in here in the hierarchy. And if they are children, so if I created some empty objects inside of here, create another empty object, you'll see the reason why it's called a hierarchy is that you can actually create a hierarchy of, who's the parent, who's the child, and so forth in this grouping here. So that's our hierarchy panel. You're going to find all your game objects listed inside of that. Also, I want you to look over in the inspector over on the right-hand side. This is going to display the details about the objects that I currently have selected. So if I grab this initial game object here, I can see over on this side here in what is known as the inspector, that it is just called game object. It has different properties like whether or not it's tagged, what layer it's on, and most objects that are completely empty like this just have a basic transform for where they are inside the world and the option to be able to add components to it using that button right there. Obviously, a lot more detailed if I click on something like, say, the main camera here, for an example. You'll see that there's a lot of properties inside this, and that's also where I can change that background color. So if I switch this game view over here for a moment and click on the color here, I can change this real time to see kind of what the background of my game will look like that. So very important panel to know is that inspector panel, because you're going to use that to control and edit pretty much every game object that you put inside the scene. So definitely explore that if this is your first time in here. And notice that it changes relevant to and related to each object that you select. Excuse me. All right. So up next, let's try to import a sprite into our scene. All right, so in order to get a sprite, otherwise known as an image, into our game scene here, first I'm going to go over to my project panel here. That's, again, down here at the bottom where I clicked on it there, or you can see the entire section if it's already selected for you down here. And this is usually in the default layout where you can tab between project and console. So I'm down here inside projects, and what I want to do is I want to go to my sprites folder before I pull something into the game so that it goes into the right location. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand the assets folder here. You can see it already shows it here, but just so that you know where it's at, I'm going to expand the assets folder right here. And you'll see it does match up to that. And then inside this, I can click on sprites. I also could have just come over here on this side and double click that. And you can see I've already got a couple sprites in here, but just to show you how you get those in there, because your initial one is going to be completely blank, you can just right click inside this and you can go, if you're on Windows, to show in Explorer. And if you're inside Mac, I think it's reveal in Finder or something like that. So I'm going to show in Explorer, and that's going to show me my folder that's associated with the sprites folder. So I can see there's some sprites. Let me open up sprites. And I can see I've got already a little crab photo here and a bedroom. So if I wanted to bring in more images, I can just bring up another one of my folders. So let's say over here in my art folder, I've been creating different bedroom deco, and I want to bring in this, which just happens to be a little table here. So I would just click and drag that over into that folder. And it's just that easy inside Unity. You can literally import objects by dragging them into this project folder. That's why it's really important that you set up this project folder at the beginning so that you know that you're going to be bringing the pieces in. Now you'll notice that I am always naming things. So you can see I have bedroom decos 02, 07. Odds are if I'm building these, in this case, sprites for a particular game, I'm going to be using some type of naming convention. That's again, just good practice. All right, so that's how we pull one in, but how do we add it to our scene? Well, once we've got this in our project, this is just a copy of it inside of the Unity editor, and you can expand this and you'll see that it creates an object for it. And you can see some info about the image itself over in the inspector panel there on the right-hand side. You can also double click it and it'll pull up a little preview window and show you some more info about it over there again inside the inspector. And you can see that it is currently set up for some things that we'll cover in a more in-depth video, but you can see you can edit the sprite inside of here. You can do some clamping. You can say what the max size and so forth of it is, but that's beyond the scope of this one. So all I want to do is see that inside my game. So all I have to do is kind of like how I brought it into the project. I can click and I can drag this up here. Now notice I get a little red arrow. That's or red not sign. That's because I'm in the game view. I need to switch back over to my scene view by clicking the tab again right up here to make sure that I am in the scene view. So once I'm inside that view, I can click on this and I can bring my table out there. So you can see, all right, let's put my table there. And let's bring this bed over here. Now notice I have this story photo. If I bring this over here, now this thing is huge. And that's the thing that we're going to talk about in a later video is about making sure that you're being very optimized and efficient with your art for games and for multimedia projects and such. A lot of times things that you dump out of your phone are going to be extremely huge, 4K, 8K sometimes in size. So notice that even if I just click on that, you'll see that this thing has a max size of 2048, but the original source is much, much, much larger than what these little tables and so forth are, which were 192 to 192 pixels for that one and 256 by 256. So you'll want to make sure that you size that appropriately for your game. But if you want to see those two in the game view again, we can just click here on the game view and you can see, all right, we're already starting to get a little bit of a feel of a game kind of set up for us here. So let's also do some manipulation to this. So again, since you guys are kind of working around this, notice that I don't have any controls to move these around. That's again because I'm in the game view. So go back to scene view and I'll see that there's a control panel here, right here, that gives you options to pan. Get my arrow there. The options to pan, to move, to rotate, to scale, resize, and so forth. So each of these map to the QWER keys, so you can sit there and come in if you're a shortcut key as you get more proficient, or you can come over and click on them. So if I click on the move tool and I click on this bed, I can grab it with the move tool and I have to click here at this group, and I can kind of move that around. I can also use the inspector over on the right hand side, which gets from the get-go kind of make this association that notice that there is a position X, Y, and Z right here. So if I move this around, watch those numbers. See how moving that in left and right changes the X, going up and down changes the Y. And if this is a 3D game, I could change this and see moving it in and out. But right now, I'm going to stay just in my 2D world. And same thing, I can switch over to the table, and you'll see it has its own set. So that's movement. Rotation right here is going to allow me to rotate this. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to rotate the table because it has a bit of a forced perspective on it. But maybe if I grab my bed, I can rotate that and have the bed kind of be a little tilter like so. Lastly, I can scale it if the bed feels too small compared to the size of that desk table. I can grab the scale tool and I can uniform scale that up. You can see it can negative, make it negative, so forth, and be able to kind of position it like so, and then come back over and be like, all right, yeah, now it's starting to feel like more of a lived-in space and not such just a pile of sprites on there for me. All right. So Keep in mind as you're working on these, observe in the inspector what happens with them. Hopefully you'll notice if I remove those drawings there, that as I rotated that object, and again, I can come over here in the hierarchy, over on the left-hand side here, I can come over here and I can select any of these. So if I click on bedroom deco or click on uh, 02 or 04, I can go and say, all right, that's the bed is 02. And I can see that it actually has a rotation value right here in Z, and that's why it's rotated. And likewise, if I click on bedroom deco 07, I can see that it has a rotation of 0, and that's why it's still kind of squared up there. So if all of a sudden you accidentally rotate something, or if you're wanting to be exactly precise and such, you can come in here and be like, no, 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 I wanted that to be exactly negative 45. So come in here and you can type that in and have that be exactly negative 45. Also, some of you probably caught on, I was doing a little shortcut key there. Some people have asked in other videos. If you are hovering around and you're using a mouse cursor, you'll notice that if you hover over a lot of the names on any numeric value inside of the inspector, so in this case, if I hover over Z, I can actually click on that and drag that around left and right, and kind of use that instead of trying to use the gizmo out here. So just another kind of little advanced tip to throw in there for you guys today. All right. So once I've got this all set up, let's say I've added in my sprites, be sure to go up and save your file so that you update your scene. So in order to do that, again, you're just going to go up to your file up here and you are going to save your scene. And that's going to save the configuration that you've made with your sprites today. So you would come in here, go to your scene, and let's save this out. And we can say main scene if I'm overwriting the main scene, or if I wanted to say, main scene 02, I can do that. And I give it a lot of numbers because sometimes you might have more than 99 levels inside of the thing, or more than 99 things. Whatever your naming convention is, make sure you stick to it, and it'll serve you well. So I'll hit save on that, and we will see you in the next text demo. Have a good one.